What is the scariest thing to happen to you when you've been home alone? I was home alone at my dad's while he was working nights, making my dinner and everything. I was probably about 14 or 15 at the time. I was watching TV while my potatoes were cooking when I heard something slam into the front door. I grabbed my pocket knife and checked it out. Nothing. About 10 minutes later, I hear another bang on the front door. Repeat, and still nothing. Really freaked out by now because we'd had a few houses get broken into on my street. Turns out I didn't put enough holes into my baked potatoes and they exploded in the oven. The scariest thing that happened to me I didn't know actually happened until the following day. I lived in an apartment in a not so good part of a dangerous city with my boyfriend who worked nights. One day our friend came over and called me to let him into our building in a hurry. Turns out this guy had been crouched by my car in the parking lot and had approached our friend and closed in on him. My friend pulled out a weapon and the guy ran off. Upstairs I noticed that the guy had left a green bundle near my car and assumed he would be back for it. It made me uncomfortable, so I suggested we call the cops. Not 5 minutes after, a cop showed up to ask where the guy had gone. SWAT, K9 and about 10 cars showed up and swarmed our area. Turns out the guy had escaped from county the night before with 2 other guys. He was in jail for assault with a deadly weapon and repeated domestic violence offences. He had climbed the fence in the yard behind our building where our landlord kept his camper, broken into the camper and stayed there the night before. He had stolen all the electronics out of it as well as a butcher knife and was trying to break into my car before my friend showed up. I had been alone the night before and had taken my dog down to the yard to go to the bathroom. I noticed that the barbed wire on the top of the fence had fallen down and my dog was nervous, but I brushed it off. The guy had been in the camper watching me the whole time and I never knew it. God. Probably pretty lame compared to most stories on here. Was working pretty late, around 2 AM, on my computer when I get an alert from my security camera that detected motion. I checked it out and there was a person staring into my apartment window in full view of where I was working. I closed the computer, turned off the lights and went into the bathroom for a bit. Turns out being extra paranoid when someone is staring into your apartment at 2 AM isn't a good combination. I checked the camera memory and the guy was there for 20 minutes, just real casual. Called the cops and the kid ran away and came back an hour later. Haven't seen him since. So he was able to see you? Or did you have the shutters closed? Yeah, good question. Was home alone one night and it was close to Halloween in 2015. Loud ass knock on the front door. I was eating dinner, so I slowly but cautiously go to the front door, open it up and there is blood all over the front porch and no one there. Kinda freaked out a bit. I thought it was a prank. Called the cops because what the f, you know? They said they would send someone there. They called back and said someone was on a bike and fell and was bleeding bad and was going door to door asking for help. I missed the person, one of my neighbours helped them out apparently. Crazy. It was about 8:30 at night and I heard the front door open. I called out from my room asking why my mom and dad were home only half an hour after they'd left for dinner. I almost shit my pants and straight up jumped out of my bedroom window when a random male voice replied, "What? There's somebody in here?" Turns out it was somebody who got hired to check on one of our neighbour's dogs when they were on vacation and he got the wrong house address. But the raw fear that gripped me when I heard his voice still gives me nightmares. Was your door unlocked? How did he get into the wrong house? There had been a scratching in my ceiling for a while and my landlady was dragging her feet over having it looked into. One night around 2 AM the scratching became so bad it woke me up from a dead sleep. I tried to reassure myself that whatever it was couldn't really get through to me and I would be fine until I could call my landlady the next day and really press the issue. Then some debris fell from my ceiling. Whatever was up there had managed to dig a small hole into my room. I screamed and heard someone scurrying away from my approximate location. Grabbed my stuff I needed for the next day, got the f*** out of there, shut the door tight behind me and slept on the couch. I called my landlady first thing in the morning, and she had someone come while I was at work that day to check it out. A mama raccoon had managed to get her way into the space between the roof and my ceiling and had given birth to a litter of kits. The guy speculated that the kits were getting old enough to start wrestling around and that was likely what led to the hole in my ceiling. Luckily it was just small, the size of a quarter, so there weren't any angry raccoons hanging out in my room when I got home. They were able to safely trap and release the whole little family, but I still started hunting for new apartments ASAP. I move into my new place on May 1st. Imagine waking up in pitch black to a raccoon hanging from your ceiling. F*** that shit. When I was younger, my mom left me and my little brother home alone while she ran to the store. I was in middle school, so old enough to be left home safely for an hour, and my bro was only 2 years younger. Mom leaves and me and my brother are watching TV in the living room, and we see a bunch of smoke from the big bay window facing the front yard shortly after she leaves. We look, and a car has crashed into the ditch that is next to our driveway. I grab the phone and we go out on the porch. I call 911 and give them my address. Then I call my grandma and tell her what happened. Cops and the whole emergency entourage gets there. I go talk to the cops. Mind you, we lived on a state route. It's a 2-lane road, so the entire section of road in front of my house is closed off. My mom rounds the corner of the side road to pull into the street and sees a ton of cop cars out in the driveway and shutting down the road. 2 fire trucks, at least 2 ambulances, and, as any mom seeing this, freaks out. Note about the road and our house. The road is significantly higher than a ditch, so it's entirely possible to miss the wrecked car, especially when you know you left your kids home alone. They allow her to park in the neighbour's driveway since ours is currently occupied, and we see her sprinting across the yards. The cops intercept her. She sees that me and my brother are okay and is able to calm down enough to talk to the cops. God, couldn't imagine how your mother would feel in a situation like that. Anything could have been going through her mind. Glad things were okay with you and your brother though. I was a young kid home alone and my mom called the phone and said a tornado was coming and I had to go shelter in the basement. The basement was incredibly creepy, especially as a child. I never went down there on my own. So, little old me grabs my toy lantern to descend into the basement all alone with rain hitting the windows, with only the flicker of my toy lamp to light up my surroundings. I make my way down to the boiler room and shelter in place until someone comes to get me. Imagine that, just sitting there in the darkness listening to all the sounds for something like 2 hours. Fucking freaky. Turns out, the tornado missed us by miles. Oh. I was probably 9 years old. My sister was 6. We had a babysitter who was 12, so alone in the sense that no adults were around. Jackass that I was, I squirted bug spray on my sister and she chased me in retaliation. I ran through some French glass doors to get away from her. She went for the knob and missed. Her arm went straight through one of the glass panes. She cut herself so deep you could see muscle, tendons and bone. It looked like shittily cut pieces of raw meat since that's basically what it was. The babysitter had a piece of cloth on my sister's arm until my mom came home, called her right away, and took my sister to the ER. She didn't hit an artery, so it wasn't as bad as it could have been, but it was scary as at the time. Got 60 stitches out of it. Oh, God. When I was 3, I got locked in our garage. I had a play area there, while my sister, 13, was babysitting. She was in the shower and didn't hear me knocking. I used my skate to break open the window and then climbed out of the broken window. Of course, I was seriously injured. I stood at the back door bleeding all over the place and crying hysterically. She came downstairs and saw me standing in a pool of blood crying and started screaming. Bonus, our parents were a surgeon and a nurse. She called my mom, who told her to wash me off and cover me with gauze and bandages, and she would take care of it when she got home. My mom came home a couple of hours later and did not take me to the hospital, but got out betadine and stitched me up herself. It was a bunch of stitches. I still have scars. Oh, the 80s. Someone tried to break into my neighbour's house while I was babysitting their kids. I was 15 and I used to babysit for my neighbours down the block. They had a really nice house, 3 floors with a built-in garage under the house that connected to the basement. It was the family's most used entrance of the house and they rarely locked the basement door as long as the garage was closed. They also had the type of security system where any time a door opens you heard beep beep beep. After the parents left one night, I was putting the kids to bed and I heard the beep beep beep. I yelled out, thinking it was the parents coming back for something, but no one answered. The system on the wall kept reading basement door open. I was freaked out, so I called my dad and asked him to come by since he was only a few houses away. When he arrived, he told me to stay in the kitchen while he checked the house, but before he could, we heard the beep 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 again, and the garage door opened. When we ran to the window to see if the parents were pulling into the driveway, they weren't. Instead, someone in a hoodie was running out of the garage door and into the woods behind the house. My dad ended up calling the cops. I'm still creeped out by it. So did the parents never close the garage door? I don't really think that's the point. Early teen years. Power went out for a while I was taking a shower late at night. I got out of the shower, already freaked out, and looked outside through the window. My house was the only one without power. Stupid teenage brain, this is clearly an attempt on my life. Reality, house had a weird problem where the power would cut out if the water heater and air conditioner happened to turn on at the same time. It had never happened to me before that, but my dad assured me that was the problem once he finally came home. Your house wasn't wired to handle too heavy demands on the supply. Nothing weird about it. It just means whoever had the aircon installed or did the installing f***ed up. Oh. I was in my basement where the computer was playing some game, probably RuneScape, and heard someone pull into the driveway, naturally assuming it was my mother who was coming home from work. I heard the screen door open, but when no one opened the back lock on the actual door, I started to go upstairs and I saw a pair of legs go by the window. While the basement was underground, there was about a foot that popped up above ground level and had 2 windows. I go upstairs and see 2 dudes in my backyard looking at the windows and talking about the door that was locked. It was an attempted home robbery. We had been broken into a few times at that point and had everything locked, but 10-year-old me was terrified. Because you guys keep asking, they just left. Nothing happened. No Home Alone shit. I did not get killed. I am very much alive. It was a hot summer day and my parents went to a wedding. I had a project to do and it was like 1 a.m. and silent until a random drunk dude crawled in through my window with a bottle and blush face. I was 20 feet away at my desk from the window and we both just stared at each other. He was flustered and said, "Oh, sorry there kid, wrong house," and attempts to leave the way he came. He was drunk and dizzy, so I helped him by pushing him out of the window. I thoroughly shut it and stared at it for 2 hours until my parents came home. God. When I was around 8 or 9, my mom commuted to a major city about an hour and a half away. So I would bring myself home from school about 100 meters away, lock the door, and watch cartoons or play Neopets until she got home. We lived in an apartment block, and one day one of the older male people in the apartment lost his wallet, and he figured it must have been me. Keep in mind, I've never stolen anything in my life or had any trouble with the law, and I had no clue what he was talking about. He came and banged on the door so aggressively that I jumped out of my skin and was belligerent, demanding I open the door. I rang Mum crying and she jumped on a train to come home, but she was an hour and a half away. She called some friends and they came and got me, and at that stage he had taken a break and gone back to his apartment, but left his dry cleaning there. When Mum got back, she stormed straight to his door and pounded on it like he had done to our door. He came to the door, all shocked, and she demanded to know why he thought it was appropriate to bang on the door for an hour to scare a little girl. He replied that he thought I had stolen his wallet. Mom asked him if he still thought I did, and he said no, I found it in the car park. She looked like she wanted to kill him and forced him to apologize. Also, in that same apartment block, there was a hairline fracture on the sliding door that we didn't know about. A strong wind blew and shattered the entire window inwards. I was home alone then too. That was scary as f***. As a mom, that ride home to save your life would be torture. I'm sure she was relieved that you were okay, and certainly released a lot of pent-up anxiety on him, and was probably a relief. Not super scary, but this one time when I was like 11, I was home alone at night and got a call from the local sheriff's office who told me they just had a dropped 911 call from this number, my house landline, and asked if I was okay. I didn't call them. Nobody else was home to call them. I don't know, it just creeped me out a lot. When I was home alone with my little sister, at the time I was probably 12 or 13 and my mom had just ran to the store for milk. These cops showed up at my door and asked if they could come inside to look around. I was a kid and confused, so I said okay. And they later told my mom that the house across the street was just broken into and the man had not been caught, and they were led to believe he was hiding out in a different property somewhere. So they thought this grown man was hiding in my garage or backyard while I was home alone with my sister. My mom never left the house without us again when we were kids. Jeez. It was a spooky movie night at a friend's, and we were 3 movies deep, just finished watching Dark Skies. I was hungry, so I was like, alright, getting my leftovers. So I went downstairs by myself. When I closed the fridge, I caught movement out of the corner of my eye, and when I turned to see what it was, there was a ghostly white skeletal thing just staring at me from outside the patio with shimmering hazy lights pulsing behind it. I f***ing freaked, dropped my food and ran up the stairs nearly in tears, babbling about someone or thing in the backyard. Turns out it was just my own reflection mixed with the lights and steam from the hot tub outside, but I've never been so scared in my life. Great movie though. Once, while I was home alone, I had been warned not to answer the door for anyone or I might get taken away. One sales guy had been banging on the door repeatedly for the last 6 minutes. I guess I hadn't muted the TV fast enough. He screamed, "I know you're home alone in there." I about died. I'm not sure that was a sales guy, and if it was, he seriously needs to work on his people skills. I was actually at a friend's house when her parents weren't home. We were maybe 10. It was her, my sister, her sisters, and me. We decided to go swimming. There had been a rash of burglaries lately, but mostly garages being broken into. Anyway, we were in the pool when we noticed the kitchen light turn on. It was evening. We assumed her parents, so looked in the window to do something stupid to get their attention when we realised we do not know the individual in the house. We hid behind the wall of the pool above ground, terrified, until her parents finally came home. It appeared as though he got spooked as he only ransacked the kitchen and left the garage door wide open when fleeing. The thought of an absolute stranger going through your home is absolutely unnerving. Ugh, yeah, I agree. This happened many, many years ago when I was but a youngster. In my suburb there had recently been a spate of break and enters. Where I live, they tend to happen suburb by suburb, like one suburb will get it in a bunch, then it will be nothing for a while. My family had gone away for the weekend, but I had stayed home because I had work. I was up at midnight watching a James Bond movie, Live and Let Die, for those playing at home, with all the lights in the house turned off, and I heard a really sudden and strange thud from my kitchen/living area. I instantly knew it was a weird noise. Nothing in the house made any noises like that, so it was immediately suspicious. Just as I was about to get up to go and check it out, I heard it again. That's when I realised it was actually the thudding of the thick glass sliding door from the kitchen to the outdoor patio. As I mentioned, all the lights are off, so I'm making my way through the house turning lights on. When I reached the light switch to turn on the patio light, I hit all of the lights at once, including the light at my front door, which is visible from where I'm now standing. We had those glass panels next to the front door, which I could now also see out of since the light was on. There was nobody at the patio area at this time, but through the glass panels at the front door, I saw someone sprint past and out of the yard. Even though I couldn't see any detail, it was unmistakable to see that it was a person running past. It later occurred to me that they were most likely kicking the glass patio door to try and smash it and break in. As I later learned, this is apparently one common method of entry during burglaries. I had initially assumed they were hitting it with something, but a boot would explain this deep hollow thud of the noise better than striking it with something. Was pretty spooky at the time. Just that sudden realization of, this is not a normal noise. Kind of crazy when your intuition knows in moments like that. No, I can't imagine myself watching anything at 3 AM alone. What if I hear any sound? Yikes. Yeah, it's not really about that. I heard gunshots when I was home alone for the first time as a 12-year-old. Turns out my neighbour was a murderer. At least 12 cop cars and like 2 fire trucks showed up, and I thought it was the end of the world. Like a frequent murderer, or he murdered someone. Either way, yikes. This just happened last week. I woke up to someone in my house, walking up the stairs to my bedroom. It was about 1 PM and I worked third shift, so I was sleeping. In my haste, I didn't grab my bat. I whip open my door and it's my ex-best friend, whom I've blocked on every social media site. She starts yelling at me for not responding to her and how she misses me. I don't know what scared me more, the split second I realised there was an intruder, or that someone I know would just take it upon themselves to force me to talk to them by trespassing. Yikes. Did you call the police? No. When she realised how angry I was, she apologised and left. Haven't heard from her since. My parents let me walk home from school alone when I was in 4th grade. In my now adult opinion, that's way too young. So I walk home from school, house is empty till about 5 when my parents get home. So I'm doing my usual routine, Mountain Dew, Code Red, Doritos, 3Ds, and Toonami on Cartoon Network. So I'm only home for about 3 minutes when I hear a knock at the door. 99% of the time I stay quiet and just wait for whoever to leave, but for whatever reason I actually go to the door and call out. Who is it? stranger dude voice on the other side. Hey, it's your buddy Mike. I don't have a grown-ass man buddy Mike. I'm in 4th grade. My shit goes cold, heart in my throat, goosebumps, cannot move, paralyzed, terrified. Dude says again, hey, open the door. We gotta go. And he jiggles the door handle really hard. Then he knocks again. Bam, bam, bam. Jiggles the door handle hard again. I'm still like 1 foot away from the door. I actually never move since all of this started because I didn't want him to hear my footsteps. After a minute of silence, I hear a car door close and him drive away. I'm still freaked the f out for the next hour. And worst thing was now I was super paranoid about walking to/from school because obviously he followed me that day and I had no idea I was being tailed. My house came with an alarm that kept track of movement in every room. I set the alarm before bed, but I woke up in the middle of the night because it was alerting me that there was movement going back and forth between my guest bedroom, down the hall, and into my office. My alarm has a robotic speaking voice, so in the dark I'd hear it say, movement, yes, bedroom, movement, 2nd floor, hallway, movement, office. I assume it was a glitch and nothing to worry about, but I ended up turning that function off. I also heard human footsteps above me in my attic once, home alone while my wife was out of town, but I posted that one already months ago. If I've learned anything here, you have a squatter living in your attic who only comes out when you're away or vulnerable enough not to check it out. God. For me, I was 12 years old and my dad was at his girlfriend's house. I went into my room to take a shower. I always put a chair under the door handle in my room because I didn't have a lock. My grandma loved giving me porcelain dolls and she decorated my room with shelves that had porcelain dolls on them. All of the dolls were on their shelves before I got into the shower. When I exited my bathroom, one of the porcelain dolls was 10 feet across the room, face down on the ground. This doll must have flown across the room to have landed where it did. Also, the doll was not broken. Needless to say, my grandma was sad that all of the dolls were packed up and put in the attic for safekeeping. No, that's good. That's a good thing.